They are carefree in the bathroom making out under the shower and don't realize that her sister arrives at her house and goes straight up the stairs. She then starts to suspect that something is wrong when she finds clothes thrown on the stairs. She then continues to go up, and with each step that he climbs, he finds a piece of clothing that has fallen. She then hears the noises coming from above and continues to go up. She then says that she does not believe what could be happening there and continues. When she arrives at the bathroom, she opens the door in silence and sees her husband and sister inside, getting under the shower. She is shocked to witness that scene and then crying for not believing what they are doing to her, and then she takes her cell phone and records everything she is seeing, and not believing she stands there looking at her husband and her sister making out while they're in front of her, and she couldn't do anything at that moment. She then closes the door slowly and stands there crying in disbelief that her sister is having an affair with her husband and says she couldn't do that to her, and then he goes downstairs crying and regretting that his sister couldn't do that with her. She then sits on the stairs and passes her hands over her face and head and asks what will become of her at that moment. Then she tries to calm down and passes her hand over her face, taking a deep breath, and again breaks down in tears. But then she takes a deep breath, cleans the tears on her face and tells them to wait for her. She gets up and leaves, while the two upstairs continue what they were doing without knowing anything. Later she gets dressed up wearing a very pretty nightgown, says that if they think it's going to stay that way, don't go, and tells them to wait for her, and then she takes a black lingerie and puts it on, and then goes to fix her hair and continues to say that even when they thought it would all be covered up and getting ready there in front of the mirror, tells him to wait for her, and then she puts on a lipstick and stands there looking at herself in the mirror. In that the two are just fine, enjoying being there with each other with a lot of love and passion. He then throws her on the bed and they are fine there. When his wife decides to call him at that moment, his phone rings and looking, he says he has to answer because it's his wife. He then answers and asks with his panting breath if everything is okay and if something happened. She then says that nothing happened and asks him if he is remembering that it is their wedding anniversary. He then disguises himself and says that yes, and he looks amazed at his lover there beside him, and his wife then says that she is preparing a surprise for him and asks him what time he will arrive and if he will be late. He then says he won't be late and says he's anxious with the surprise. Then his lover asks him why he's anxious sitting on the bed, and his wife then thinks it's good because he's anxious and says he's also very anxious. Anxious and says she is waiting for him later. They kiss goodbye and hang up the phone. The lover then asks him what his useless sister wanted. He says that she is making a surprise for them because it is their wedding anniversary. She then wants to know when he will end that marriage, since he says he loves her and that he doesn't love his sister. He then says that she is the one he loves and pulls her down to bed again, and it all picks up where they left off. But your wife goes ahead with her plan, and so she calls her dear little sister. And while they're on the good side, her phone rings. She picks it up and sees it's her sister calling, and then answers it right there the way she wants to. It is. They greet each other and she asks her if everything is okay. She then says yes and asks her how she is. She says she is fine, but that she is finding her kind of breathless, but she disguises herself and says she is at the gym working out and who is doing the treadmill and who is tired. Her sister then says that she is fine then and that she is always with her fitness life, and then says that she needs her help and that it is her wedding anniversary and wants her help to prepare a surprise, as there is no better person to know of his likes than she does. She then says she will, and at that moment she pushes him and says that when she leaves the gym she will. She says she will wait and still says that she loves her very much and that she is not supposed to forget, and keeps saying that she is the most important person in her life. Her sister then says that she loves her very much too, and they say goodbye with a kiss and hang up the phone. She then looks at the phone and says, "You love me, you know," and stands there thinking, while the other one is with her husband in bed. She gets up and he then asks what his wife wanted with her. She says that since she always wants to surprise him, he then asks her to stay calm and that he can't do anything, as they are still married, and that he has to keep up appearances, and he has to play his role of husband. She then says that she doesn't know how long she will put up with it, and that she actually has to go, because she has to solve these little things by surprise, and she gets up and leaves. When she arrives at her sister's house, she says it was great that she went and says that she will help her at that moment, and then asks her to sit down, and her sister wants to know what surprise she is thinking of making for her husband. She then says that she bought a wine he likes, some rose petals to throw on the bed, and the sweater she is wearing, which is beautiful, so she asks if the other thinks he will like it. She then with an unwilling face says that the nightgown is pretty. Her sister then gets up and says that the flowers are there and that she should go see them. The sister then gets up to see the flowers while she picks them up. A piece of iron under the pillow and strikes her head, knocking her out, and then drags her out of the room. Soon then his wife arrives and she finds him at the door with a glass of wine. He greets her when he enters and then says that that is the surprise, and she then says that it is just the beginning of the surprise, and handing him a glass of wine for him, she beckons him to sit on the bed while he watches her and says she looks beautiful. She thanks him and says it's all for him. He then wants to know how her day was. She says it was good and that she was thinking of another surprise, but that she had an excellent idea and that she wanted something special for them at that moment. He then all excited says that all that just for him and that she is different from the other times and that he is even impressed. She then says that it is a special day and calls him to toast. They toast and he tells him to drink. He then takes a sip and she tells him to drink everything, that wine is delicious. She forces the glass so that he can drink all the wine, but he says that it's already good and that the drink is kind of weird and that he doesn't want to drink anymore, not knowing that he's had enough of the surprise she prepared for him. He says he's not at all well and falls on the bed, and she laughs right there at that moment. She then takes another sip of her wine. She takes them to the street, tying them to a tree on the sidewalk, and then they start waking up and not knowing where they were and what was happening there at that moment. They wonder at the same time what they are doing there and what is going on, and asks her to let them go. But she then says that let them go and says that they are not ashamed. Her sister then asks what she is talking about and that it is for her to stop for free, and desperately ask him to let her go. He then asks what happened to her for her to do that to them and that she must have been going crazy. She then smiles and says that she is the crazy one and that she is really crazy, and then shows them what she filmed the most early, the two of them together, and says that means she is crazy. She then tells her sister that she is getting it all wrong, and he says that it's all just a montage, and wants to know what it is, while his lover complains of a headache. She then tells him that it's not a montage, and that he always said that he loved her and cheated on her with his own sister. He then says that he will tell the truth and says that she was the one who seduced him by insinuating herself to him, but his lover tells him to stop lying and that she didn't do anything and that she didn't hit on him and that he is lying. She keeps calling him a liar and brazen, and she goes on to say that her own blood sister, her blood, did that to her. His sister asks please, and says it's all his fault, and if someone is to blame there it's him, and keeps asking please. He then tells his wife to leave only his sister tied up there and let him go, and he says he loves her and that she really is a traitor, only she. She then says that she has arrived and that she doesn't want to know about that conversation anymore, and that the two deserve each other and that they are flour of the same sack, that they are of the same milk and that they deserve each other. She then leaves while her sister asks her to release her from there, and he screams for her not to leave them there. While she screams for her sister, he says that there is full of ants, but she doesn't give them morals, and turning around tells them to stay there and moves on without looking back. While the two stand there blaming each other, she leaves.